All right, so let's dive into a little bit of mobile gaming. Today we'll be breaking down a special project and looking at where mobile gaming could be going. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. As you guys know, we've been tracking a lot of what's been happening in the mobile gaming space for quite some time. One of the areas we, of course, always talk about is Solana's mobile devices, because the mobile devices typically for mobile gaming could really accelerate in the Web3 side. And whether we'll see a mobile device coming out of Chapter 2 or not is still, I think, a speculative thing. We'll probably get a question mark on that today. So we did a video. You guys may have remembered this video. We were looking at Solana startups. And this was one that we liked. It was the Boi Universe. You probably remember some of the deep plan projects. And we rated the Boi project as one to really take a look at a little deeper. So we thought, hey, let's get them on the show and actually dive in a little deeper. So I want to bring into the show right now Ems from Boi Studio. Hey, great to see you.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So Ems, let's go into a little bit about the project, the size of your team. Give us kind of a framework of where you guys are today.
So I would say that we're still at the prototype stage. The chosen approach is to build in the open. And what that means is basically ensuring that there's always an element of the game that is playable and available to the public. We have a team of 10, and we've been building for coming up to 2 years now.
You look at what some of the popular games are out there and what you guys are doing, some of the most popular blockchain games. This was May 2024. Pixels, very similar, I guess, to a certain extent. Explain the differences between what Boi is going to be doing, Boi Universe, versus something like what we've seen out there with Pixels.
I think personally, the thing that sets us apart is the story element, the deeper side to the characters, the deeper side to what we're aiming to do. We call it Universe simply because it's going to be ever expansive. We can always add more and more to it. And I feel a lot of people, and rightly so, I don't have anything against it, they've tried to capitalize on this Web3 boom, where I saw an opportunity to really create something long-lasting for players. I'm really coming at this from the player's angle as opposed to just the studio angle. And I think that's what really separates us from the rest.
You look at this and the potential of expanding the NFT side of things, and I want to talk a little bit about the idea behind hybrid NFTs.
The difference between a regular NFT, which is speculative value, and a hybrid NFT, which is still technically speculative, however, it has an intrinsic value attached to it from square one. So it is created with a set amount of tokens attributed to it from square one. And it creates a beautiful conundrum. Whereas before, you would launch an NFT and it would be down to popularity, community, a whole host of things behind it, right? As to the reason why the price of this NFT would go up and down. Now, with a live token associated, the NFT pricing will be strongly based with how well that token's doing. But the difference is sentiment is still involved. There will still be features and traits that exist within these NFTs that will now play on the mind as to how they're going to be valued. And if I told you I knew this was going to work, Paul, I'll be absolutely lying. I saw something great, I saw something new, and I said, let's run with it.
Let's go for it.
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens, exactly. 100%.
And I love it to see that. But hey, that's how innovation is done, man. So good for you. Let's talk a little bit about the TNT token, or the Thenti token. Explain the relationship. Yeah, explain the relationship. Go a little bit deeper on that one.
Yeah, so Thenti is just shortened from authenticate. The ticker is TNT. There's several reasons for that. TNT, because it sounds cool, like blowing up like TNT. But also, I was originally born in Trinidad and Tobago, so that's a little secret one for your followers, your subscribers, and it's actually built into the lore of Boi Universe. And this is what I mean about story. We could have easily called the token Moon or Boi, and I thought, well, it's a bit obvious.
Too
sometimes
cliche.
Obvious is good.
Too cliche,
sometimes obvious is good, but for this, Thenti is actually it's set in the future. It's a cyberpunk setting, and authenticators within the game are machines that authenticate higher value forms of power within the game. So if you have normal energy things called blocks within the game, you can power certain weapons, but Thenti powered items are generally more valuable.
Let's talk about memes, because memes are really flying right now. We've seen meme tokens, meme cultures. Do you feel like this is a critical component?
It's not the only element of the culture, but I think it's an important one. This is how this world communicates, through memes, through jokes, easily shareable pieces of content that are enjoyable. And I think it's no different to how a user may consume Instagram or TikTok. But with this, there is more behind it. And you mentioned anime. I remember when I was growing up, anime was very niche, as you might say, or niche, as we would say over here. And I could only access it. I remember watching Sky, and they would show like one anime really, really late night that you'd have to stay up. Or if you had a cousin that was in the US, to get it in the UK, you had it on like VHS, and then you got access that way. Now it's openly accessible. Netflix and Amazon are fully streaming anime all day long now, and of course you've got massive sites like Crunchyroll that are making anime more accessible. And I think that NFTs are going to be here to stay, because whether people realize it or not, there is value in digital assets. Digital is the future, and they are going to overlap more and more as we go forward.
Yeah, tokenized assets, I think once we see mainstream realizing the connectivity points, and then you tie that into in-game assets, digital assets that are more on the creative and entertainment space, people will start to understand that, especially from a collectible community side, as we see a lot of that kind of growth. What about, you talk about these kind of cultures that have been ingrained in society, Pokemon obviously one of the leading out there. What about a Pokemon catching element within this in terms of the gameplay?
Pokemon was one of the biggest inspirations for this game. So there's a few games that I will talk to death about because of the impact that they had upon me. Pokemon being one of them, more specifically Pokemon Red and Pokemon Silver, and Final Fantasy and RuneScape. So if you are fans of any of those games, you will be able to see those within the DNA of Boi Universe. And just like any fan, you want to pay, ode to these games that came before, and hopefully add something a bit extra. And then beyond that, hopefully inspire the next generation of gamers to say, look, I really enjoyed that. Now I want to go and create something really cool. That's it.
iOS and Android rollouts, what's the timeline here of potentially getting the games within those ecosystems?
So we've actually been pre-approved for both, and we've been testing on both for quite a while, for a few months. However, the legalities around the acceptance of crypto payments within these games, and then you've got to think about, we're rated PEGI 7, which is basically family friendly. However, if you start talking payment and transactions, we need to make sure that that is introduced in a safe way, right? Especially when you're introducing non-adults to this type of world. And I don't think it's going to be very much different to what's going on now. I just think that Web3 has this thing where it loves to turn its back on everything that's simple and tries to overcomplicate the things that should be simple. And I really approach this by trying to make things as simple as possible. So we aim to be on both Apple and Google Play Store before the end of the year.
What about in Chapter 2, something like what you guys are doing with Moonboy and TNT? Why not?
I think that's definitely possible. I think following the footsteps of Bonk, shout out to Bonk, they were one of our earliest sponsors. And I feel what they've done really well is make sure that they integrate with as many different DApps as possible, making themselves as accessible to as many different people from as many different DeFi communities as possible, and in a fun way. And I don't see Thenti being any different from that. We may double down more on gaming focused projects, but it's beyond Boi Universe. That's the beautiful thing about tokens. It can exist outside of the game. Yes, it will be part of our in-game economy, but why are we going to restrict that? I don't plan to do that at all.
I want to get your take on this, Ems, and this is the device, because Solana hasn't really revealed that this is a phone yet. What about if it were something like what we've seen out there with Sui? I think I've got a tweet on that one. What about that? Something like that from Solana? What are your thoughts?
See, I'm in a really lucky position since I've spoken to both the Solana Mobile team and the Sui team with regards to these upcoming things. So Solana Mobile, we're actually already focused on Solana Mobile, and we're part of the D App Store. They've got 100,000 signups for part 2. I mean, that's the last time I checked. It's probably way higher now. But that's exposure there, and they're trying to go along a similar path to a traditional app store. I know they recently just announced, for instance, that you can now rate different apps within their D App Store, which is great. Sui is going hard down the gaming route, which is, of course, attractive to a game studio like us, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why we were having the conversations as what does that actually look like? And I think there's legs on both. However, I will say this, Solana Mobile, if you're talking about being a serious competitor with other mobile phones, devoid of just the Web3 aspect, that is I believe, a much steeper hill to climb. Don't get me wrong, gaming is highly competitive as well. Yeah. I just feel like there's a lot more tolerance for new gaming consoles, and a lot more people will be willing to try it just offhand rather than gaining a new phone. But that's just my we'll see how that in the next few months.
Well, I mean, we kind of have a running bet here in our own studio around what that device is going to be, because we're not really sure it's going to be truly a phone just yet. And if there's enough gaming interest, I think, in Web3, by the time it rolls out, it'll be tied into it. I'm looking at some of the architecture you guys are putting within the game. You've got Tensor HQ there. We saw the Bonk brands, other things that would start to look at almost like product placement, so to speak, within the game itself. What's that process look like?
This is, for me, one of the first steps in true interoperability. And it starts with, before you even put any pixels down, it's starting with the attitude towards building. There's something I've called digital billboarding, and it's a natural way of including brands within a game, but in a less intrusive way than pop-up ads. Will it work? Once again, I'm jumping in and just going for it.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well,
but I'll give you an example. I'll give you one quick example. So I spoke to a guy at a networking event, and he works with an airport. And one of the things that you always come across in role-playing games is fast travel. Generally, the digital space is so big to travel, and the character can only move at a certain speed unless they adopt a certain vehicle or some type of transportation. Fast travel allows a player to pay, whether it be gold coins, whether that has IRL value or not, to get from one place to another place faster. So I said, for instance, if we were going to take your brand and introduce it, we would have an airport service where the player could go, and then you can take a quick flight, literally like that, to another area within the game. And it doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to be open to that idea,
That's a great one. That's a good example, I think, because that's some of the things that I think we're starting to see more and more openness coming into the game devs. I mean, we talk to them all the time. I talk to Corey quite a bit from Honeyland, and he's always got some interesting takes on it, because he kind of comes from the Web 2 space and is doing a lot within that area. I want to get a little bit of an insight on the roadmap going forward. Give me a couple of things. Can you throw me a couple of teasers of what you guys are working on coming up?
Yeah, so we've got our NFT token launch towards the end of June, early July, that we're aiming for. And we're also working on a new mini game, which is loosely based on rock, paper, scissors. And we're really excited about that one, because it gives, once again, another genre time to shine within our game. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
I like it. So
that's in the next couple of months.
Hey, Ems, it's been good having you on. We always love to get creators on here, especially game devs, is really understanding the mindset of where this is going. I think this is it's a market that is on the cusp of explosion. So good luck to everything you're doing there. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to your future shows, and I can't wait till this hits the air. Thanks.
You bet.
Take it easy.
All right, so you guys might be tuned in on the podcast side of things right now. Make sure and jump over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. That's one of the best ways. If you're brand new and you're learning about crypto or NFTs or Web3 gaming for the first time, or you're just into technology, this is the show for you. Make sure and hit that little bell, so sometimes when we'll do live streams, you'll get notified of those live streams. In fact, I think we're going to be doing quite a few more, because we're getting ready to move into some pretty interesting times. So also, the other fact I want you to do is follow me out there on X, which is just @Paul Barron. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.